Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Today is Saturday, March 31st, and we're going to be exchanging our daily astrological forecast for our lunar forecast because today we have a full moon. And so I want to dedicate most of the episode to that. Of course, if you haven't seen our Venus ingress video, we just got it out earlier today. You should be seeing it right before this episode. So if you want to check that out, we will be covering a little bit of Venus in Taurus in regards to the lunar forecast. But it's not going to be the main highlight, especially as we do talk about some upcoming activities with that Venusian ingress. But, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got going on today. And more importantly, for this lunar cycle here. So welcome back, y'all. How you doing? Sorry that I had to take off that break yesterday. It was a painful experience, to tell you the least. But in the good news, hey, got a nice little shave. Looking good for this Venus and full moon videos, eh? So let's go ahead and talk about it, right? Obviously, the big main event today, aside from a Venus ingress, is going to be the full moon, which is essentially the moon opposing our sun, who has been transiting through Aries and is now in conjunct with Mercury. All right, so a couple things already to note. One, this is going to be very Aryan. Two, it's going to be very Venusian. And three, it's going to be very Geminian, okay? Because we have a lot of energies right now that are all shifting at the same time that have to do with these three signs. Aries, I guess you can kind of just say Venus and Mercury. Now, the reason I say Venus and Mercury is because, well, obviously they both rule Taurus and Gemini, which are the ones that we're going to mainly be talking about, but also Virgo and Libra. Now, thankfully for us, there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as Virgo goes, because Virgo hasn't had a damn thing in her sign in fucking forever and a half now. Poor little Virgo has been completely empty alongside with Cancer. They've just been completely desolate lands for God knows how long. And really too, Libra, since Mars and Jupiter left Libra as well. The only saving grace right now we have is a little bit of energy in Scorpio, which is Jupiter, and Vesta's about to ditch Sagittarius, so that's another vacated house coming on here. However, Gemini just did get Athena, so that's a nice little representative there. And earlier today, Venus did go into Taurus, so Taurus and Gemini do finally have some energy, but it all comes back to this whole full moon. So again, really do recommend you look at the Venus video beforehand. I'm only going to give a tiny little synopsis of it to really give this full moon a bit more weight, as opposed to just telling you go watch that, which I'm still telling you go watch that. This full moon, the moon is going to be in Libra, right? This full moon is going to be happening in Libra. And opposite of it, of course, we have our sun, but the sun is going to be conjunct with Mercury. Not only a regular Mercury, but a retrograding Mercury. This is the shift in the Mercury retrograde, right? So during the first half of the Mercury retrograde, which of course happened shortly after our new moon, since the new moon till now, it's been all about reflections. And I mean, all the way till the new moon cycle is over, or the full moon cycle is also over, I would still say it's really about reflections. I'm telling you that, guys, this Mercury retrograde, if you haven't seen the video, is really, really, really important. Because it's about stop moving forward for a moment and really reflect on everything around you, right? It's Mercury. What does Mercury rule? It rules Gemini. What does Gemini represent? Local community, everything around you, transportation, technology, as far as you could even say the actual electronical grid for the internet, and not necessarily the people of the internet. It rules thoughts. It's the lower mind. It's the way you process information. It's the way you process reality as well as spirituality, since it squares Gemini. Both do, actually. You know, it's the fundamental process of taking higher level information and making it make sense to the monkey brain, if you will. So in this sense, Gemini plays a big role, and so does Mercury as it's conjunct the sun. It's going to really highlight, and I say that with truth almost, as the moon is going to be full, so it's going to illuminate both the sun, of course, and Mercury. But more importantly, it's going to highlight Mercury because it's so close to that sun. That's going to play a huge role in our ways of, you know, understanding what has been happening and now formulating ideas of how to make sense of it and how to address it, right? This second half of this new moon cycle coming into, of course, the full moon cycle, which is half the cycle of Mercury's retrograde, is about taking actions on your reflections, right? So what's been going on in the last 2 weeks? What have you been thinking about? What have you come into the awareness of? Whether that's your relationship with others, whether that's your own way of thinking, whether that's your own perspective on your own self. You know, this has been a huge dealing with problems, dealing with pains, because Chiron is now at the 29th degree, healing with suffering, healing with karma, healing with some of our deepest wounds. It's going to be about transformation and changes. As I told you guys earlier with the Venus video, Venus is conjunct Uranus as it moves into Taurus. This is taking what we learn, how we want to be in Aries, which, look at that fucking coincidence. Venus and Aries for the new moon, half the Mercury retrograde cycle, and as soon as the full moon kicks, that we turn into the second half of this cycle, Venus is now in Taurus. It's taking about who we want to be, who we want to project, and truly begin to manifest and develop it. Putting the hard work, putting the effort, putting the progressiveness in. Do not stop moving forward. Make sure that you are moving towards what you value and what you desire, right? So we're making a lot of changes because, again, it's conjunct Uranus. We're making legit changes, and even though it's only a hair away, we're also making transformations in our life as Venus has been squaring Pluto. And again, Venus moves into Taurus as we're having a Libran full moon, which is ruled by Venus. This is a Venusian full moon. But it's more than that, because again, the moon is opposing Mercury, which rules Gemini, and Athena just left Taurus to enter Gemini. This is not a fucking coincidence, you know? Not to mention Mars is conjunct Saturn, while squaring the Sun and Mercury. Say what you will. Of course, they're technically T-squaring as well with the moon. You know, it's going to be, this whole Mars-Saturn is going to be T-squaring this full moon. This is about us taking actions towards the reflections we've had. The last 2 weeks have been about, where am I? How did I get here? Where am I trying to go? The second 2 weeks of this Mercury retrograde is about coming up with solutions and ideas moving forward so that we can break the chains of the vicious cycles that have preceded us, which again, Chiron on the 29th degree. We're bringing an end to karmic cycles. And we're doing so with the support of this Mercury retrograde, the backing of this Venusian full moon in relationship to other people, returning back to a very Gemini Venusian concept. It's our actions that will enable the direction we wish to go in. It's our actions that will teach us the lesson of things that we need to overcome. Even though we're talking about the moon, this is still very much Saturnian, as it's literally smack in the middle of this full moon energy. Saturn is here to show us, to teach us what needs to come to an end, what needs to be resolved, what karma needs to be cleared, and you're the one that's going to do it. You're the one that's going to take the actions to clear this karma. You're the one that's going to take the actions to close the vicious cycle and come to a conclusion. And as I said with the Venus video, whether this means changing up who you speak with, changing up who you're with, changing up those you're associated with, this is up to you. This is you. You're having this moment, this break, this pause in our adventure, this filler arc episode to get your plot straight. Because when we come back out of this Mercury retrograde, it's time to move forward again. That's why for now, we have the liberty to really take action on crucial decisions that we've been holding out on or holding back on. This is the moment to be able to really set right to some of the wrongs that we've made. You want a second chance? This is your fucking second chance right here. You're not going to get another one for a long while, and not one as beautifully perfect and powerful as this. For a lot of people who are constantly always saying, man, I messed up, I really wish I had a second chance to be able to do something here. This is it. The next 2 weeks, this is it. Once that Aries new moon hits, once that Mercury goes direct, your second chance is up. So you have 2 weeks. 2 weeks to address all of the problems that you've already come to acknowledge and realize, and you've came into the awareness of. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from the situations you've been in. And begin to set right to all the wrongs. Chiron is telling you to release your guilt, to release your regret, to unburden yourself by now setting things right. Because Chiron does not want to enter Aries holding on to the emotional baggage that sometimes Pisces can accumulate. Now, of course, we do know that Chiron will be returning back to Pisces later this year. But later this year, we're not going to be at the same time period and with the same energy that we're in right now. especially because by the time this happens, Uranus will have entered Taurus. And when that happens, the table's going to flip. The table's going to flip, and you want to be in a favorable position before the table flips. If you wait till Chiron comes back into Pisces, you're not going to be prepared. You're not going to be ready for Uranus coming into Taurus. You're going to get caught off guard when 7 planets are retrograding later this year in August. And it's going to fuck you up badly. So again, for these 2 weeks coming up, till the next new moon phase, we need to work on our self-identity. We need to acknowledge how we feel about how other people see us, think about us, what our relationship are with other people, what are our words and our actions and our projection with other people, especially because Mercury is going to be conjunct the sun. But now with Athena in Gemini, we can literally use the power of words to protect ourselves, defend ourselves, and that which we hold dear to us. Right? Athena is a defensive asteroid, whereas Mars is an aggressive planet. I was going to demote him to an asteroid. Right? So it stands to say that Athena is very much the feminine version of Mars, but with a bit more brains, because obviously Mars is very Aryan, whereas Athena is a bit Sagittarian and more Capricornian. So Athena can definitely use the power of words to defend herself, to state her position, and not be knocked down by the actions of others. This is your strength moving forward. We know what we want from ourselves. Acknowledge it. Value it. Elevate it. Turn it into a luxury. Uranus is, again, the unique individuality of ourselves, because it's still in Aries. What makes us special? What makes us amazing? What makes us different from the next student on across the hall? Elevate it. Turn it into a luxury. Do not hide it. Do not discard it. Do not hold it or repress it or suppress it. Shine that motherfucker with the power of the sun. As we get closer and closer, you're going to realize that the next new moon is going to conjunct Uranus. And you're going to want to motherfucking plaster your uniqueness everywhere. And guess what? So will everyone else. And guess what? Small new niche communities are going to be created by the exchange of authentic desires. Gonna have new groups, new association, new friends. All of that is very Aquarian, ruled by Uranus. That new moon is going to be a new jumpstart for new contacts, new connections, new people, new organizations. But right now, we need to bring an end to the ones that are not being helpful for us, that are not conducive for us, that are holding us back, that are repressing us, that are telling us to not act in certain ways because it's not something that they like or they want to be around. If there are people that need to be glove slapped, glove the shit slap out of them. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. this is a massive, massive second chance that we are all benevolently being blessed for, to be able to take care of all of our issues before that next new moon in Aries. And again, think about that for a moment. A new moon, new starts, new beginnings, new concept, new projects in Aries, literally the beginning of everything. You want to know when the new moon, the new year actually begins? You can kind of say that it was at the end of December. You can kind of say it was when the sun entered Aries. But really, the start is on the next new moon, which is right after Mercury goes direct. And it's going to be a very powerful new start for everyone. It's going to jumpstart a lot of ideas, a lot of new groups, a lot of new projects, a lot of new concepts, a lot of ingenuity, new ideas, just, you know, as far as really taking off, that's going to be the next new moon. That's going to be in 2 weeks. And we want to be as prepared as possible for when that new moon hits. If you have a concept in your mind, like, oh man, I want to be able to do this for people. I want to be able to start this new project, or I want to do this and that, blah, 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 blah. If you have anything that you want to begin on, hold off for 2 weeks. Because that next new moon is going to be when you want to start everything. But right now is not that time. Right now, we're here to finish off that which needs to come to an end. Cycles that need to be completed. You know, this is essentially us finishing this game. And Mercury has given us a task list. Jesus, of things that need to be taken care of before this last level is concluded. This is why I said that even though we have the sun moving into Aries, the new moon was in Pisces. We didn't feel like it was a new start. We didn't feel like it's a new year. Everything felt weird as shit. Mercury began retrograding right after it. Everything felt just like, what the fuck? We want to move forward, but nothing is moving forward. This is why. Because the energy is not quite ready to move forward. Because there is this one last thing that needs to be scratched off the task list so that we are ready to be able to progress forward. So if you feel like you've been stuck, if you feel like you haven't been able to progress for the last 2 weeks, this is why. And no, we're still not ready to progress and move forward. We're ready to finish what needs to be concluded. So again, toxic communities, bye Felicia. Toxic environmental friends, bye Felicia. People that are being nothing but, you know, gross and nasty and suppressive and just overall disgusting, bye Felicia. Because new moon in Aries on top of Uranus is going to bring about massive change, and this Mercury retrograde is helping us clear what needs to be done with before we can begin. So that's pretty much my take on this. Again, do not doubt yourself. Do not hold yourself back. Do not fall for the words that people may abuse against you to try to keep you suppressed, to try to keep you down and low vibrational. There's a lot of divisive energies because we still have the South Node in Aquarius. There's a lot of toxic people in our communities. But that's fine. There's always a couple bruised apples in a bag. But what are you going to do, and how are you going to handle the situation? You know? What are you going to do to be able to progress forward? Because this is a very huge Aquarian time, even though there's not a lot of Aquarius in there, but we're all moving into that Aquarian mindset as we're finishing up this mercurial Venusian cycle that really kind of originated since Pisces and has been dragged through Aries. And Aries is getting pretty fed up and tired with this shit. It's like, the fuck are y'all bringing into my fucking house? I want to start new shit. Why the fuck am I doing what you guys couldn't do in fucking Pisces? So it is time to start things. It is time to begin things. And in order for us to do so, we need to really bring an end to what should have been taken care of in Aquarius and in Pisces seasons. So here's our second chance. We're not going to get a third. Just make sure that you guys do what you can. Make sure that you guys are preparing yourselves, because this full moon is here to bring about conclusions to old karmic cycles that really just need to come to an end. With that said, thank you all for coming out. I really do appreciate you guys' support and viewership. Yeah, like I said, sorry about yesterday. I could not get up through all the pain of doing a shit ton of work the previous 2 days before that. So I missed out on yesterday's daily episode. However, we do have some more content for you guys if you haven't gotten to watch them yet. We have Athena in Gemini, and of course we have Venus in Taurus, as I've mentioned a couple times already through this episode. Go ahead and check those episodes out if you haven't. They're definitely very informative to give you guys a bit more understanding of what this whole freaking full moon is, and really this Mercury retrograde, because like, even though there's a lot of aspects going on, Mercury retrograde right now is the big player. It's the one that's moving everything, and everyone's just kind of playing by his rules. Even Saturn's like, all right, fine, you want to play it that way, here, let me show you how it's done. And Mars is here backing him up. So it's a lot of really odd stuff happening, and honestly, this chess game is quite interesting. There's some like 4D chess going on here with Mercury, so to keep an eye on that. And of course, if you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up with our daily forecast to see what the recommendations are for the day, to be able to move through this cycle. And hey, by the way, guys, if you haven't hit that bell icon, I would recommend doing so. YouTube's going through a number of really weird changes, and if you want to make sure that you get your guys' notification as soon as possible, definitely tap that bell icon for your 9 a.m. EST daily forecast videos. But with that said, once again, thank you all for coming out. Really do appreciate it. Stay safe, stay positive, and I'll catch you guys on tomorrow's cast. Peace.